But when you started with DOTT, so you had an amazing team. First of all, congrats with that, because I think that is at the basis of the initial growth of the startup, having a great team as well. That is complementary, right? Because you need to have the people who can, help you and be good at their thing.
Yeah, a company only exists by its people, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but DOTT started with their own hardware, if I am not mistaken. So, can you please explain a little bit the process between starting DOTT or leaving the previous company and then launching in Brussels, which was not that big of time in between, but it takes a lot of time to have a good hardware like DOTT.
So I think when we started DOTT, we knew from the beginning that hardware is really important, right?
Yes, it's key. Yeah.
It leads all the unit economics. It is what makes ride experience safe or not for the user. It has obviously very big environmental impact depending if it lasts or not.
Exactly.
And overall, it's obviously a big part of the user experience itself.
And the loyalty and stuff.
And the loyalty and everything. And so when we saw like that the first shared e-scooter operators were using a scooter which was made for individual consumers for the private market, and that they were getting destroyed basically very quickly, we thought, well, there's no way we are going to start with this type of what was the Segway or Ninebot e-scooter. There's no sustainable business with this kind of hardware. And so we were very clear that we would never start actually with this kind of hardware. What we knew is that we needed like shared e-scooters which were built
for sharing,
for shared
but
shared
at that time, there was no one doing it.
At that time, so we found basically a Singaporean guy which is called Daniel, which had already worked for a few years in the e-scooter industry.
Oh, wow.
And so together with him, I went in August, actually 2018, in China. And we went to screen all the suppliers we could find that were producing e-scooters in China. And we found one supplier which had basically designed an e-scooter specifically for the shared mobility market. So what it meant is that this e-scooter was built much more to be durable, so it was much more robust.
So the lifetime was
exactly
higher.
It had also like the bigger wheels. It had a larger deck, and it had also proper mechanical brake. Now it seems
I remember
it
you
seems basic, but at that time there were only electrical brakes, which was extremely dangerous, right, when you are going downhill. But it had a mechanical brake, and so just these features like the big wheel, the mechanical brake, the large deck, we said, okay, like this is like what we need to get started. So the story is that it was not our own design. We made some modification on this design, but it was not our own design because you need a lot more time to do it. And so that's the design we use. At the time, indeed, when we launched in Brussels and in Paris, in Lyon, we made a massive difference because we are the only one basically which had an e-scooter which was comfortable to ride, safe to use with the mechanical brake, the big wheels, and also was much more durable. And for the story, this e-scooter that we launched about 3 years ago is still being operated. It's not operated in Brussels, but it's operated in Poland because just the cost of operating it is more expensive than the newer generation. But it's still being operated, and we just decided after analyzing the durability of the product that actually we would continue to operate it for a fourth year, which is pretty amazing. We would never have thought about it. Like 3 years ago, the discussion was, okay, would it last 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months? That was the type of discussion.
But you guys actually set the standards of the quality of the scooters, basically, because I remember when I was working in Brussels. When I saw a DOTT scooter and I tried it, I mean, the experience on the cobblestones, it was way better.
Which is very brutal in Brussels.
And
now, you know what we say is like, if we want to test a new e-scooter, we always go
Go
to
to
Brussels
Brussels.
because the cobblestones are the most horrific one across Europe. I mean, Rome is pretty good also for that,
Yeah.
but Brussels is definitely at the peak. So if you pass Brussels, you are
Yeah.
good.
I mean, Brussels has a lot of difficulties, I would say, because sometimes a certain percentage might end up in the water or on the highway. I remember these things happened, but you guys really, in my personal opinion, set the standards for the industry to kind of like build on top of what you already have. Because I think with the iterations, maybe not the next one or the second one, but from the third one,
Yeah.
then they could not come back with a scooter that looked like, not a shared scooter, like maybe the
Yeah.
ES4. It had to have at least the minimum specifics like the DOTT one had,
Yeah.
the big wheels, the suspensions.
Yeah.
I mean, because otherwise, the users would, I would not use it. I only used Lime or DOTT because Lime also had a pretty good scooters even back then, I think.
Yeah.
Even-
Ours was better, but
I mean,
with all due respect, like.
but I think Lime scooter, the original one is still being used in Prague. I think.
Yeah, there are still cities.
Yeah.
So but yeah, they had bought a lot of them also.
Yeah.
So,
So I think, that is also sometimes a story that needs to be discussed because in the news often it's about, scooters are not durable. They only last, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. But I think sometimes it's also good to look at the stories or the companies that actually put time, efforts, and a lot
Yeah.
of money and building a durable a scooter for the long
Yeah.
term, and seeing that it's still being used now.
yeah, and I think
Because
I
that
mean,
is very
unfortunately, it's true that the industry has still a bad image because of the beginnings
Yeah.
with the e-scooters, which were made for individual consumers, and especially in the US. But now, honestly, I think the whole industry is using e-scooters that are quite robust. Not only DOTT, everyone. And I think, generally speaking, the e-scooters, have multiple years of.
But that's
of
because
life,
they are all using the same companies.
True. But
Yeah, but it's-
the criticism, about the industry in relation to the lifetime of the e-scooter, I think, is not anymore.
No, it's not
doesn't
the
reflect
current
the
situation.
reality of now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it's something that I also definitely want to discuss is I feel like we went through a lot of years, did a lot of pivots. Obviously, we went through a difficult time with Corona, but a lot of companies came back stronger, I would say, and they are now bigger than before. And I think seeing that companies are raising a lot of money right now, it's high valuation. I think now it's time to not focus on burning the cash with operation, but actually focusing on long-term decisions, things that can be durable. Whether it's investing in like hardware that can be for the long term, for example, or whether it's focusing on improving the operation. I mean, that's what I feel because we spend a lot of money that we just burned. Because we did not manage the operations that good at the beginning. And to be fair, the industry was moving quite fast.
Yeah.
So it was hard to catch up and to actually, manage the operations at the very beginning because everybody was learning along the way. That's what I feel. But I feel like now we reached a level where we have some experience. I'm talking about the industry, where we should focus more on, durable things rather than burning cash. But I want to know your opinion because I'm just like the listeners or most of the listeners is just, an outside perspective, right? So I don't know how it actually is to manage a big company like DOTT.
Yeah. So I think on one side, it's very clear that, like, mobility, there's a revolution in mobility right now, right? All cities are moving to micro-mobility, thereby building cycling lanes, and people want to also more and more use micro-mobility vehicles in cities. So it's a huge transformation, right, which is going on. And cities, they also want actually to have shared micro-mobility operators to offer this shared micro-mobility service to people, right, to replace cars and so on. So basically, there is a huge, from a pure business perspective, there is a huge market opening, right? And so there's definitely for the key operators in that market, there's definitely a speed aspect, right?
They need to answer the market, right?
If you want to be in this market, if you want to be able to answer to the needs of cities, you need to be able to expand quickly to buy or invest in the capex or to buy all the e-scooters, e-bikes or whatever you need to fulfill these needs. And this requires a lot of money, right?
Of course, yeah.
And you don't have the time for that to access to debt or to basically be profitable to get to these markets. In the same time, it's very clear also that unless you can turn your business to be profitable, especially at city level, where you have positive return on investment on the vehicles that you are purchasing, well, obviously, you will never be profitable as a company. You will never be able also to access to debt, to finance your vehicles, because that's what banks are looking at. Okay, is it a profitable company? Do they have a positive return on investment? And if you can't achieve that, it means that ultimately you always rely on equity or capital to be sustainable financially as a company. And obviously, this cannot last forever. So this is really I think the tension that the big operators have is like, okay, like on one side, I have to expand because there are all these market opportunities are opening. And I'm not sure that, once there are operators in these cities that I can still enter this city. And in the same time, they know very well that, okay, but in the same time, I have to make sure that I am profitable because at some point I won't be able to raise money anymore as easily, right? And if you want to be profitable, obviously, then you have to focus on really good hardware, really good maintenance, really good operations, and really control all your costs all the time, right?
Exactly. That's a great point. But I think, besides from the business aspect, we also need to not forget that we are in the sustainable, business, right? So at a certain point, our business model needs to become sustainable as well, right? Because we are pushing the sustainable model. So at certain point, we should also be sustainable, I think. Because it's true that we need to answer the needs of the demand and the market. But at some point, you also need to make sure that you are sustainable in terms of your operations, because you want to have a positive impact, right, for the climate, for the nature.
And for that, for us, the values of the company have been always very important. And the first brainstorm we ever did, actually, which was in August 2018, with just, I think, 5 or 6 people, was what kind of culture do we want to build within DOTT, which will make us happy and proud to work for this company, but will make also the company successful. I won't, bore you with, which values we chose and so on, but basically the big thing for us was, how do we build a responsible company? And the way to look at it, I think fundamentally, is when you have decisions that you need to make, is it good for our employees, right? Is it good for the cities where we are operating?
Exactly.
Is it good for the planet from an environmental perspective? And also, is it good for our shareholders or from a financial perspective? Because otherwise you have
so you need to find a balance.
And it's all the time like you have to try to tick the box on these 4 dimensions. And usually if you tick the box, if it's yes on these 4 aspects, usually you are making sound decisions for the business, right? It's not always in short term exactly aligned, but in long term, generally speaking, it always
makes sense
aligned.
when you look back. I was just going to ask.
For instance, a simple example is like, like at the time when we started, do you buy a Segway or do you buy, something much more robust? If I buy the Segway scooter at that time, well, I can get it very quickly. I can go very quickly on the market. But obviously the problem is they are not going to last very long. So probably it's not going to generate a very positive return. So if you take the long-term perspective, okay, having a robust hardware and safe was the good decision for our users, right? It's safe. for the cities because it doesn't generate, waste everywhere. It was good for the planet because it lasts, and it was good for our shareholders because obviously we are still operating them 4 years later, right? So that's the framework, if you like.
That's amazing because
very simple.
Yeah, I mean
very basic.
It's very simple when you explain it, but I think back in 2018 when you were executing, it was probably a bit difficult because DOTT was the only one, I think, that focused on these kind of things, like on the durability of the hardware. And I'm not really like wanted to expand very fast, but was very cautious in how you expand it, and also I think where you expand it.
Yeah.
Can you enlighten me a little bit on that? Because
true. I mean, there was this tension, right, where it's a new industry, so a lot of money coming in. So obviously there is a huge pressure to do what's called blitzscaling,
exactly.
So which is to grow as fast as possible in as many markets as you can, right? And we took a very different view, which was like we need to master the business first, our operations, the user experience, before we expand. And so we took a very conscious decision to say, okay, we are only going to go first to 3 cities, which were Paris, Brussels, and Lyon. Yeah. And a little bit like a concept store type of approach, which is pretty popular in retail. We are going to test basically
like
our operations like a pop-up.
Exactly.
We are going to test our operations, refine it, and make sure that it generates a very good user experience, that we offer reliable service, and that we are able to do it in a cost-efficient way or profitable way. And once we perfect or refine the model, only then we are going to replicate this model in many more cities, right? Yeah. And this is what we did. So the first year we went to very few cities. The second year we were much more confident. We had COVID, unfortunately, but we expanded a lot more, and now we are in about 31 cities across Europe. Yeah,
I think there must have been a certain pressure because you obviously also raised quite an amount of money at the early stage. Mm-hmm. So you could have easily, expanded fast, like what everybody was doing, but you decide to do what nobody was doing actually, and I think that was a little bit risky, but it worked out in the end, right?
Yeah, I think it's because we took the long-term view, right?
Exactly.
You have to find the right balance, but if you care about your investors, even not even talking about in the environment, if you care about your investors, well, you don't want to take the risk of buying a lot of really bad hardware
because
that is only going to last 6 months, which is literally what happened to most operators except DOTT, right? And that's just wasted money, right? And so we care about our investors, we care about their money, and so we say, okay, like we are going to make sure that it's well invested, and we'll be careful. And once we are confident we can generate a return, we are going to expand. And obviously you could give the same argument about the environment, about the way you operate in cities, building very good experience and collaboration with cities, right?
Exactly. And I think it worked out very well because your local strategy is, it's working out pretty good, right? You have a very good presence wherever you are. I think wherever you operate, DOTT has a lot of loyalty from the users, but also has a good relationship with the city and works together with the community. And also the fact that you employ the people there plays a huge role. And I think that makes a difference ultimately in the long run as well.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, a key aspects of DOTT that you highlighted, which is, one of the key decisions for us was, choosing a really robust and long-lasting and safe hardware. Another one was to go very slow and just, a few cities first. Let's perfect the model and let's expand. And the third decision we took was to have our own in-house operations from day one. And the reason we did that was that first, if you want to build a very good partnership with the city, it's very hard to know if you don't control your own operations, right? And so you have your own people. Well, if they're not happy about something, okay, we'll fix it, because we do it ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's also important in our view because if you care about the safety of your users, well, you want to make sure that the maintenance is very well done. And if you outsource it, it's very hard to be sure. we thought it was very important to have our in-house operations also, because that was the way for us to control all the costs, right? We had visibility on all the costs, and so we could say, okay, like, oh, we are spending a lot of money on this. Let's, fix the hardware to prevent that, or let's, improve our software so that we can minimize costs. And so then you can really continuously iterate and improve, because you are learning through your local teams, right? And so this is what we did. And part of it is also that all our employees are shareholders in the company, which, I think there is a difference if you feel that you are also an owner of the company.
Exactly.
You don't act the same way as if you are just paid, right?
Yeah, exactly. And one thing you mentioned about sharing the knowledge, I think when you employ the people, they learn, but them learning is actually the company learning as well, because the knowledge kind of like stays in the company, right?
Yeah.
In a way, if you outsource it, I mean, these companies that you outsource it with, they work together with other companies, right?
True. No, it's true.
Yeah,
it's like either you are doing a very good job at managing a 3PL, third-party logistics company, but then they are learning from you, and then they pass this learning to competitors. Or you are doing a poor job, and then obviously you have poor results as well.
I think that is one of the, like, what makes DOTT so different and so good compared to others, is the knowledge that you gained over the years, the way you operate and so on, and the operations. But what I also wanted to know is, how do you decide to which city or market you want to move on next? Like, what are the key things that you look at? Do you look at the current issue in that city in terms of mobility? Because and some European cities, they really need some shared mobility, and it's a bit hectic. Or do you look at the culture maybe, or do you look at your competitors that go there? Because often when one operator goes there, 3, 4, 5 follow. Maybe not that much, but a lot follow in the coming months. Yeah. So, but with DOTT, I saw that the expansion, in a way, you did not follow along where everybody was going.
Yeah, I mean, we are fairly selective because also we want to spend carefully, let's say, and make sure there is a good return. But the no, I think what we look at, generally speaking, is one, the size of the market. So like, how big is the opportunity? We look at the regulatory aspect. So first, are we welcome or not?
Which plays a big role.
Will there be a tender or not? Will it be a protected market? In general, we prefer protected markets, so tender regulated markets, because we can then invest in a much more sustainable way. 3, we look at the infrastructures. So
the roads and stuff.
People that or our users have a safe experience in that city or not, if they use our e-scooters or our e-bikes. We look.
What about the demographics? Because
we look a little bit at demographics, but it's not necessarily a key input, because we consider that eventually we are really serving everyone. We are not serving a specific group of people.
Because I'm in bike share. I used to be in scooter share.
Yeah.
What I noticed is that with bike share, you have the demographic is bigger, right? You have the women, men, young, old. But with scooters, at least back when I was still operating, people were a bit afraid to use them. I guess now it's changed with the quality that changed, of course, and you guys set the standard. Yeah. But I was wondering if that was still a key thing. Because
so, I mean, first, DOTT now, we are both an e-bike and an e-scooter operator, right? And the reason to add the e-bike was, part of it was this, right? Which was like, the e-bike, they are more attractive for, let's say, the older segment of the population, but also women, actually.
Exactly, yeah, women.
And the e-scooter were more attractive, at least till now, for, let's say, younger people and men.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's changing, actually, because we see is that there is a bigger and bigger proportion of women that are using our e-scooters, and we also see that the average age of our user is progressively increasing.
So that's quite interesting.
But but it's still the case, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, but what I'm saying is overall is our goal as a company. You know, the mission of our company is to free our cities with clean rides for everyone, and the for everyone is very important for us. What we are looking at is eventually like all the trips that are non-walkable and that are non-public transport. We want basically to offer a service for them, a solution for that. Yeah. Whether it's an e-scooter, an e-bike, and maybe some other vehicle types.
Yeah. Exactly, and I think I discussed this with Scott Shepard, who has a lot of experience in public transport. I think it's not really about banning certain mobility modes. It's more about finding a balance, because you might need a car to, even if it's a shared car, to go to IKEA, for example. You cannot take
a cargo bike or a small car.
Or a cargo bike,
for
right?
families, it's very clear that a single rider e-bike or an e-scooter is not the most convenient vehicle, right? I mean, even though you can see families on e-scooters, it's not supposed to be. And so it's very clear that in the shared micromobility space, there are still vehicles that need to be added to fulfill all the needs. Right?
Yeah, actually, you mentioned cargo bikes.
One interesting thing is also like something that we don't talk too much in this industry is disabled people, right?
Yes.
And today, someone who is on a wheelchair, once he goes out, let's say, of his flat, right? Generally speaking, they cannot use public transport because it depends the countries, but in most cities, they cannot access to it, right?
It's
the
very
stations are not built for it.
They need to call up front to be able to.
They cannot really use the cycling lanes because they are too slow, right? Mm-hmm. Because on the wheelchair. Yeah. And they cannot obviously use the shared micromobility service because it's not built for them, right? Yeah. And I think there is really an opportunity also to build solutions for disabled people.
And that is something the company is thinking about.
This is definitely something that we are working on.